Right, we're recording and we're on the way. So welcome everyone. The special Small Business Masterminds Foundation webinar on customer engagement with special guest star Adam Ramshaw. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you very much.
Nice to have you here. Thanks for joining in. And I hope that everyone has downloaded their worksheet. So more about Adam and myself a bit later, but this is what today is going to look like. First of all, we're going to give you a whole heap of stuff, as much as we can cram into your brains in the time we have. And again, my favourite topics, but it's totally Adam's favourite topic. So we can both go on about this for hours and hours. So please feel free to stop us when we get boring. In a moment, we'll tell you what you can expect. But just so you know, we're absolutely not going to sell anybody anything to anyone. We're just going to cram your head full of food for thought, and then we'll give you some information on how you can take another couple of really simple steps forward with all that food for thought if you want. So a couple of general comments before we go on. Oh, that's the topic, create raving fans. Sorry, I didn't move the slide forward. So a couple of general comments before we go on. It's been proven time and time again that passively sitting and listening to someone talking means that you're going to get 90% of everything you've heard in less than a week. So if you want to get as much return on your investment time of being here, you need to participate, and the best way to do that and to ensure that you're focused is by working through the worksheets. And as I've said before, the link at the top left of your chat window is where you can download the worksheet. If you get lost, if you're not sure where we are, if you get lost in your worksheet or wherever as well, you can put up your hand. If you click on the My Mood button in the top of your screen, a number of icons come up and you can signal to us with that. And besides that, of course, you can type questions in the chat window in the left-hand bottom of your screen. We're keeping everybody on mute for a number of reasons, not least because that when you start unmuting people, you tend to get lots of technical problems. So we're keeping everybody on mute unless there's a really particularly good reason to ask someone for their input and conversation. Generally, we'd love to hear from you. Generally, we'd love to get engagement from you. But please do so through by asking the questions in the chat window and putting up your hand with that button. So don't do any of this. If you're going to get distracted by Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, email, etc., turn it all off. You cannot be focused on Facebook and get value from this workshop at this webinar at the same time. It's just not going to happen. Not even for the women. Sorry, multitasking is a myth. It really is, honest. This is our agenda for today. We're going to check in where you are. Then we're going to talk about managing by keeping your fingers crossed. Then we're going to talk about what Apple can teach us about raving fans. What are raving fans? We're going to talk about what your customers think about you, and surveys and surveys and surveys. Not all surveys were created equal. Then we're going to talk about how to, then we're going to talk about stories. We're going to have some stories. And we're going to talk about how to create raving fans. And we're going to talk about how to create raving fans, there's going to be another story, a business bedtime story. We're going to talk about the 8 keys to creating raving fans, all the lessons and all the recaps of everything. Then we're going to talk about special offers that Adam and I will be making for some next steps that you might want to take. And then, after all that, we're going to get to action. You're going to walk away with some really useful actions that you can take in the days and week after this webinar to really implement some of this stuff. So this is us. That's Adam. Adam, tell us who you are.
Thanks, Roland. My name's Adam Ramshaw. I'm owner of Genro. Genro is a boutique customer feedback consulting company. We've been around for about 15 years helping organisations understand and act on customer feedback. One of the things we are is we're a small business, so we understand small business very, very well, and we understand the challenges it brings. And what we've done is we've taken a lot of the knowledge from our larger business in the consulting business, Genro, and put it into Run Our Survey, which is our way of helping small business to act and use and understand customer feedback.
That's great, yes. And Adam really does understand that. You'll get some really powerful insights from that on that topic today. And that's me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a business coach and I'm a mentor, and I help small business owners become less daunted and less overwhelmed in their lives as business owners, and in fun in their business again, and to build business that sustain them for years to come. And I'm also the author of a series of business books for small business owners, and the books are called the 10 Truths Books for Business Owners. And today's webinar is really about the 6 truths in both of my books. This one, Truth 6 about customers in book 1, and the truth is Create Raving Fans. And Truth 6 in the second book, also about customers. Great growth companies know their customers intimately and give them one thing they need better than anyone else. And that first part of this truth, about knowing your customers intimately, is exactly why Adam's part of this webinar, because Adam knows how you get to know your customers better than anyone. But more about that later. So this is our outcomes. This is what we want you to take away from attending the workshop. We want you to all walk away with great insight about how you can turn your customers into raving fans. We want you to walk away understanding the importance and benefits of turning your customers into raving fans. We want you to walk away committed to taking one or more actions to implement a system that's going to tell you how many and which ones of your customers are actually raving fans, and which ones are not, and what you need to do about that. And we want you to all leave with a greater appreciation about how important it is to be great at what you do, as well as to be great at running your business, because a lot of business owners are great tradespeople or professionals, and we know a lot about our profession or our trade. But to be a great business owner and to build a fun business that sustains you for years to come, you have to have a solid understanding of all the key aspects of developing, not just your trade or profession. And so there's 10 key aspects of business that all of us business owners face from time to time. It's about vision, mission, purpose, planning, strategy and goals, numbers, control, systems, measurement, profit, cash, financial management, marketing, customers, sales, systems or management, or the rhythm of business as I like to refer to it, staff, people obviously, and then there's you, and of course that makes you feel like that. It's just too much to focus on. It's overwhelming and it's daunting and it's simply doing your head in, right? So before we go on, I'd like you to go to your worksheet, and on the 3rd page of your worksheet, you'll see a question with some space underneath it, and the question is this: right now, this coming month, right now, what is the biggest challenge that you face in your business? What's the thing that keeps you awake most? Take a moment to write that answer down on your worksheet, and I'll give you a minute's silence to think about and to rub. And I'll have a glass of water. And that must be close to a minute. Now, just below the box where you just fill in that question about your most pressing issue, there's another box on the worksheet, and this is about your outcome. What is your outcome for participating here? Take a moment to decide what do you want to get from being here this evening, or for those of you from Europe, this morning. So we've got Europe and Australia, all over Australia. Oh, we've got American as well. So what time is it in America? It must be middle of the night in America.
It's late evening.
That's what I call commitment. Welcome, you Americans, you. Good on you. India, well, it's a global webinar. Right, so there's your outcome. Now that you've decided on your outcome, what I want you to do is I want to encourage you to do what you need to do to make sure that you actually get that outcome. You know, we here, Adam and I, can't take responsibility for giving you what you want to get. We can only be responsible for our own outcomes, as I listed them above. So check with yourself as you're going along. What do you need to do to get what you came here for? So let's get started. And to begin, let's check in how everyone went. And we're going to do that with a poll. And just got to put it up. Here comes the poll. And the poll's also in your worksheets. The questions are also in your worksheet of the answers. So the questions I want to give you is, I want you to give us an answer on are, when I think of my customers, what I feel is, A, frustrated. I spend enormous amounts of time and effort and money finding new customers, and I always seem to be forced to compete on price. Or B, I'm exasperated. My customers tell me they're happy, yet they still make me compete on price, and they rarely ever refer their friends to us. Anxious, because I think my customers are happy, but I can't be sure, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. D, all of the above at different times, including keeping my fingers crossed. E, I'm excited because I know that most of my customers are raving fans. They're advocates of my business. They stick with me for the long term. They constantly drag their friends in the tour to do business with us, and they never ask me to compete on price. I want customers like that. So please tell us, A, B, C, D, or E. Make your choices now, ladies and gentlemen. Got a few coming in. Yes. Yes, we need more. We need more. Half of you voted by now. Half of you voted. Oh, getting there. We're getting there. Couple more to go. A, B, C, D, or A. Frustrated, exasperated, anxious, all of the above, or excited. Ooh. So 16, 25, 16, 33, and 8. One person here is excited because they know that most of their customers are raving fans and they're advocates of our business. We want you to be our friend. But the numbers have come back, and you know, I suppose it's not an uneven split between the first four, generally speaking, except for that one person on the last one. And A, B, C, and D, hardly anyone scored E, and that's just more or less what we expected, because most small business owners and prospective business owners walk around keeping their fingers crossed about their customers' happiness, don't they, Adam?
Yeah, they were really interesting results. Really interesting results.
Yeah. It's my favorite management technique of mine, managing by keeping your fingers crossed. I hope it'll just all come out all right somehow.
Yeah, it doesn't really work so well that way, especially with customers, because you can never really know what's in their head. So it was really interesting to see some of those results come back, especially about the exasperated and anxious part. So it doesn't really work just to wonder. You need to ask customers.
Yeah, exactly. Management by keeping your fingers crossed. I couldn't help putting that one in. I love Ricky Gervais in the office. But, you know, you see, the problem with all of this is that if you've answered A, B, C, or D in the poll above, you know, your margins are always going to be under pressure. Your customer acquisition cost, what it costs you to get a new customer on board, will be sky high. And your business is simply being honest, not as much fun as you'd like it to be. So the purpose of this webinar is three things. How can we find out what our customers actually think about us? What do we have to do to make them feel truly engaged with us so that we make more money, have more fun in the business? What do you reckon, Adam? Shall we get into it?
Let's go.
Go. So let's talk about the principles. I'm going to use the example of Apple first. You know, Apple is a heavily overused example for just about anything you want to prove in business. And Steve Jobs, and if I hear another quote from Steve Jobs, I'm going to vomit, but I'm going to use him anyway because it's the easiest example for now, and we have people from all around the world on the webinar, so it's best to work with examples that everybody's familiar with. So this is the experience of Apple, right? See, that's I think that must be the Apple store in New York, but How would you like to have a business where you announced, when you announced that you had a new product, people would immediately camp outside your door for 48 hours just to get your hand on one of your products? Is your business like that, Adam?
Of course, Roland, of course.
Yes, of course. Yeah, no, I thought so. Yeah, mine too, really. Pretty cool, right? I mean, does Apple have to compete on price? Well, virtually not. They set the price. Everyone else follows. Apple's customers are raving fans. Apple customers will actually get all religious about Apple products. It's creepy, really. But all Apple has to do is to make an announcement about a new product and let people know what day it'll be available in the shop, and they start to queue up. Yeah. Before I get comments, I'm getting comments that our sound is fading in and out. We'll have to see how we go with that for a little bit longer for now. Yeah, I'll keep trying to talk loudly and clearly. So before I get comments about how it's unrealistic about comparing Apple in 2014 with your business selling a service or a product, let me tell you about my accountant. That's my accountant, BTA Vantage. I have an accountant who does, they do my books and my tax return, and he's brilliant. I love him. And when he sends me an invoice, I pay him on the day I receive the invoice, and I dragged at least 6 other customers to his door in the last few years. Right? That's an accountant. An electrician. David Jones. He's an electrician. I've used him for 25 years. I used to be a builder, see, and so I've introduced him to so many other new clients by now that we couldn't even count the dollars that he's made from my referrals anymore. But it's probably not even in the hundreds of thousands, it's probably in the millions. And here's a client of mine. It's a small neighborhood supermarket around where I live, and the owner has 4 stores in 4 other spots around town. I love him so much that I often talk about his business to friends and families and parties. Do you have any examples of business that you support that way?
Yeah, indeed, Ron. My mortgage broker I've had for years, Bruce Cower over at Loanscape. Now, Bruce has been, as I say, my mortgage broker for years, and I'm forever sending him to people predominantly because I trust him 100%, and I know that he will do exactly the right thing for people regardless of what it does to his bottom line. And that trust is something you just can't buy. So yeah, I'm a raving fan of Bruce's over at Loanscape. He's great, and I trust him, which is really important in a mortgage broker. Yeah.
So let me read you a short excerpt from my first book, the 10 Truths for Building a Healthy, Bouncy Business. That's the cover of the book, and this is chapter 6. A fun business that sustains you for years to come gains a great deal of its ongoing and new business from word of mouth and referrals. Most normal businesses will have satisfied customers. Otherwise, the business probably wouldn't exist for very long. But referrals, word of mouth, quality referrals, the type of referrals that walk in the front door ready to do business with you, on the whole, those referrals do not come from just ordinary satisfied customers. Only customers that are turned into raving fans or passionate advocates of your business go out of their way to tell their family and friends about your business and their experience with it, and they do so with such enthusiasm that actual business follows. Ordinary satisfied customers will stick with a product or service until something better comes along. Sometimes ordinary satisfied customers will even disappear for no identifiable reason. Simple boredom might be enough to lose those satisfied customers. But customers who've been converted to fans, on the other hand, will actively resist other offerings from your competition because they feel personally and emotionally invested in the business. In turn, they feel that the business is truly committed to the relationship. That's end of quote. That's what I said in my first book some 5 years ago, and I actually believe it's even more true now than it was 5 years ago. Raving fans are the holy grail of business. If all or most of your customers have become raving fans, you can cut your marketing budget to a fraction of what you used to. You won't have to discount your products or services. You won't even have to worry about the competition in the way that you used to. Raving fans will do your marketing for you. They will do your market research for you. They'll give you ideas and suggestions for improvements and new products or services. They'll give you constructive feedback. And they'll go out of their way to do business with you. And most importantly, they'll be actively on the lookout for new customers for you, and all at the prices that you want to charge for your stuff. No discounting. And that is heaven on a stick. And for those of you in Europe who don't know what that is, that's a marshmallow that's been roasted over a campfire, and they are heaven on a stick.
Oh yeah, that's very good.
So I hear you think, nice, but my customers are pretty happy. I know. I ask them. As a matter of fact, I often talk to my customers, and I always get on really well with them. Okay, so I hear you. But you're sure about that, right? Because you've asked your customers, and then if they're happy, and most of them have said so, yes? Well, how many of their friends have they referred to you? How many of your friends have they referred to you in the past 6 months? How many of their family, their partners, or their business colleagues have they dragged to your doors over the past year? Not so many, but I thought you said they were happy. We want to turn our ordinary satisfied customers into raving fans. We need to know how happy they actually are to start with. But the fact is, most of us in small business especially, we don't actually really know how happy our customers really are. And without knowing how happy they actually are, we're sailing blind. Just like that boy. So I think we need Adam's insight on this problem right about now. Adam.
Yeah, I have to say it's very true. Small business owners have a particular blindness as to what their customers think about them. And they do that because they're close to their customers, or they think they're close to their customers. They're talking to them every day. And it's certainly true the management and owners of a small business are going to be much closer to their customers than the CEO of GE or even Apple are ever going to be to their customers. But that closeness comes at a bit of a price. You really don't know what your customers are thinking because they most often won't tell you to your face. And I'll give you a really classic example of this. I think all of us have been in a restaurant and we've been talking to our friend across the table about how the meal that's been put in front of us is cold, or it's hot, or it doesn't taste so good, or it's too salty. And so we've been chatting to the person across the way and saying we're not that happy with the meal that's been provided. The waiter or waitress then walks across beside us and then asks us, as they always do, so how's the meal? And the immediate reaction we give almost always is, it's terrific, thanks, it's great.
Yeah, it's so true. I've seen myself do that so many times. I go, why do I do that? It's so wimpish, but it's true. Yeah,
I think everybody's done that. And to me, that's a classic example of how being too close to your customers don't want to tell you the truth because they're embarrassed or it's a little bit confrontational or whatever. So I think small business have a real blind side as to what their customers really think. So you really need to step back and listen to what your customers are saying. And I'll give you another case. We're a small business ourselves, and I thought we knew our customers really well and what we wanted. And but we did a survey because we believe in this stuff. We did a survey of our customers, and the scariest part from that survey was that although I speak to our clients basically every day, they came back to us and told us that we weren't talking to them often enough, and that in fact that they wish that we'd talk to them more about the things that we'd sell because they would typically like to buy more stuff from us. They wanted to buy more services. So that's a really scary thing for a business owner to hear. The customer's telling them that actually that they would rather that you speak to them more often because there's more sales to be had. So that's what I'm saying. Is the customers, small business have a perception that because they're the face of the business and talking to customers all day, that they really know their customers. But it's not necessarily the case. You really need a formal way to listen to what your customers are saying. And a way that's not face-to-face, a way that they can be a little bit more comfortable telling the truth in an anonymous survey or something like that. So it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a question from Dave in Sydney Lane Cove. What tips a happy, satisfied customer that a little bit further to actually refer business unsolicited or unprompted? One would be to take on the B&I, Dave. We're going to get back to that question a little bit later, I think. So we might just hold that one for now, if that's okay with you, Dave. So what you're saying, though, Adam, is that means that we're talking about customer surveys and customer satisfaction questionnaires and all that kind of stuff. But do we even know that works? And who's got time for that in small business, right? That's the question that comes up for me all the time. I mean, most people don't even bother filling out customer surveys anyway, really, do they? No, it's not necessarily true. There are some really straightforward ways that you can run surveys.
you need to make it easy for customers, and there's some simple tips that you can take, but they do work, and they work very, very effectively.
So we're talking about the Net Promoter Score, aren't we?
So yeah, I was going to say we'll mosey on to the Net Promoter Score. Now, Net Promoter Score is a really simple way to ask your customers what's important and understand what's important to them with just one question. There's a lot of research that's been done around this Net Promoter Score, and I'm seeing it a lot more in small business recently. It's been used in big businesses for basically 10 years. The idea is now 10 years old.
Yeah, that's the slide that you see there is the book by Fred Reichelt, and that actually launched the Net Promoter Score some years ago now.
Yeah, so it's 10 years old. It's had its 10 years birthday just earlier this year, actually. Now, what's really important is that the Net Promoter Score question, and we'll talk about that in a sec, the Net Promoter Score question really is linked to future revenue. So what happened when they built this was they did some research and found that customer satisfaction, the classic "how satisfied were you," was not a great question to ask customers because it really didn't link to future loyalty for that customer. So they developed this new question, and the question is, how likely would you be to recommend a friend or colleague to our company based on your experience? And you score that on a 0 to 10. It's a very, very simple questionnaire. You do a little bit of analysis on that. What's good about it is it links to revenue. It links to real customer loyalty. And that's the difference between Net Promoter Score and, for instance, customer satisfaction. The how satisfied are you question is not really a great question.
So, just for those of us who have never heard about this question, can you repeat the exact question of the Net Promoter Score? So
the basis of Net Promoter Score is the question: how likely would you be to recommend us to a friend or colleague based on your recent experience? Where 0 is very unlikely and 10 is very likely. So we do a little bit of maths on that. I won't go through the maths here now, but it's quite simple maths, and we get what we call a Net Promoter Score. So that tells us how many of our customers are going to promoting us and how many of our customers are detractors, which is the lower scores. So that's what that is. We also need to ask in the survey, we need to ask why. So we need to understand what's happening and why the customers are given this score. And it also works really well to include a couple of what I call service attribute questions. So how reliable are we? How responsive are we? The sorts of things that we know from experience are important to customers in our different industries. And so you need to have those three elements in a good Net Promoter Score survey to really make it effective. Mm-hmm. But the survey can be as short as 3 questions, should be no longer than 10 questions, and take a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes for the customer to respond.
And they're very simple scaling responses in all questions effectively, aren't they?
Really easy questions to answer. So just a 0 to 10, just scale to 1 to 7 for some of the other elements. But really simple, and that's the important part. It should be simple. It should be easy for the customer to do.
Yeah. Interesting. I've always found that what really surprised me when I first came across the Net Promoter Score concept was that question, how likely, on a scale from 0 to 10, how likely is it that you'll refer us to your friends and it's really only the 9s and the 10s that are actually promoters of your business. Everything under a 9, anybody who scores less than a 9 is a worry. The 8 and 7 are sort of neutral, but anything below 7 are actually detractors. They're actually negative to your business, and I find that really really shocking, because in the past, if I think back on my days as a builder, I've probably had lots and lots of customers who I thought were, they're okay, they're happy enough, and they would have been around that 6 or 7 kind of area, and that turns out that they're actually turn out to be detractors of the business, and they're certainly not referrers of the business. They're certainly not raving fans who drag new customers into your doors and stuff. So I found that really quite.
The 6 or 7s and 8s aren't raving fans. You really have to get a 9 or a 10 to make it worthwhile.
Yeah. That's right. But so the problem I've always had when talking to my clients about the Net Promoter Score, and there's quite a few of my clients on this webinar too now at the moment, that it's actually not that easy to set up and run. And because of that, very few of my clients end up setting it up and keep it going consistently. But so you've got a solution for that, Adam. Can you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So what we did, and I talked about this right at the start, was we're a customer experience management organisation. We work for mid-sized and big organisations who've got the resources to really pull the whole process together and get the questions sorted out. But what we've done is essentially in the run-out survey, the best practice questionnaire and the best practice approaches and the best practice analysis of all of the information into a one size per industry, so different industry versions. So we've got the right attribute questions for each of the different industry service attributes. But we've packaged it all up into a way that a small business can download and execute on the survey literally within 10 minutes. So they don't need to develop it, they don't need to write questions. That's all been done for them. All of the stuff that big businesses employ consultants like us to do, we've already done and packaged it up in a really easy to use way. And that's the real benefit of what we're trying to do here, is making it accessible, easily accessible to small business, when in the past this would only have been accessible to larger businesses who might throw thousands of dollars at the process.
Yeah, and look, I've seen enough use it, and I know it's just a matter of fact. I actually got really excited about it when an ex-client of mine showed me that he'd implemented the run-out survey system in his own business, and how easy and effective it was. And because of that, I invited you to come on to this and do this webinar with me, because I really truly want to get this in front of as many people, small business owners, as possible. So is there any other explanation about how that works that you can give here right now that makes it easier for people to understand, or we'll move on with that?
That's basically it. The idea is to package it all up. Yeah. Everything's there, the questionnaire, the process, the survey, how the questions are written, the analysis, it's all sitting there ready and available. So it's easy.
So can you, have you got a little case history story of someone that you can tell us about that, and especially if you can explain what impact it had on them when they started using it?
Yeah, so I think the best story around this area is actually the mortgage broker I spoke about earlier, called Bruce from Loanscape. Bruce had said to me some time ago that he really wanted to do customer feedback, but he didn't know how to do it. And to me, that was exactly the sort of small business that Run-Out today is focused on, helping organisations. So he wanted to do it. He knew he needed to listen to his customers more effectively, but he didn't have the time. He didn't have the knowledge on customer surveys. He didn't have everything he needed. So essentially, I said, well, actually, Bruce, we have this product. Do you want to try this? And so his story is the best one, I think, because it shows an organisation that wants to do this, didn't know how to do it, and literally 10 minutes later, he's got it up and running. We stuck it into his CRM system now. We sent it out to all his customers. They give him feedback. One of the really interesting things you get from this feedback is not just how your customers feel, but when you reach out to them and talk to them like this, they'll often, it's often a lead generation for the business, which is really, I think one of the most amazing things is asking customers how they feel can often be a lead gen for the business. So a lot of the feedback is, yeah, really great. Actually, I need some more help on something else. Can you give me a call? It's just a terrific way to do it. So it works really well for Bruce.
Yeah, it's really powerful. Like I said, I've seen it, and it made me very excited, because I've talked about the Net Promoter Score for years to my clients, and some have experimented and played with it, but it's often been just that little bit too difficult for small business. But so yeah, it's great. So we've had one question come up from Dominic in Sydney. As a small startup, I don't have a large customer base at the moment. What would be the minimum number of customers to give a good idea how your customer service is tracking? I think we'll be getting back to that later as well. But what's your initial comments?
But I think as a startup, you need to be doing it even more than regular business, because you need to be learning exactly what your customers care about. Every piece of feedback is useful. We can talk, and I'm happy to talk hammer and tongs about statistical analysis of the data, but actually don't worry so much about that.
He's actually a nerd.
Yeah, don't worry. I don't want to bore you with that stuff. You don't need, there's no minimum sample size. Go out, get feedback, and Roland's exactly right. Start with one and start collecting the information. That's the most important thing. Don't get I call it wrapped around the axle. Don't get wrapped around the axle about worrying about all that stat stuff. Get out, listen to your customers, read the comments, and keep score. That's really important. But read the comments, go back to them if you can, talk to them.
So we had a question earlier on also from Dave in Sydney about what tips a happy, satisfied customer that a little bit further actually responsibilities are unprompted. I suppose it's a little bit off topic, but I think the big thing is if they truly are raving fans, they truly are 9 or 10 on the Net Promoter scale. That question, how likely it is that you will refer your friends or colleagues to our business. They truly are that, then they probably won't need any prompting, because true raving fans will go out of their way. But sometimes they need a little bit of prompting and actually asking them, because they don't. Sometimes what I've noticed is that people that are complete raving fans of you think that you are so busy that you couldn't possibly ever have any more, need any more clients, and it doesn't even enter their brain. So really simply asking them can be a really powerful thing. So Carlo in Perth says, I've tried running customer surveys in the past, but nobody fills them out. How do we deal with that? Adam, what's your suggestion?
So a badly written or a badly created survey can cause its own problems. If it's too long, and lots of customer surveys you get are too long. I don't know who's done the Qantas survey, the 50-page Qantas survey. 50-page Qantas survey. I received a survey from a hotel the other day that I was on the first page and it said 1% done. So I went all the way through it because I'm a survey guy. But it was really a terrible survey. So most often the low response rate is around how the survey is designed and what's done. That's the heart. There is a bit of skill. It's not actually black magic. There is just a whole stack of little things that they're not big. I'll give you a really simple example: reminders. Mm-hmm. Not sending a reminder will reduce your response rate by 33%. Really simple. So you need to send a reminder to customers 4 or 5 days later. Really simple stuff.
Wow.
That will decrease your response
30%.
rate. 30%.
Wow, that's amazing.
You'll get a reverse 50% lift in your response rate just by sending a reminder.
So we get on one more question from Wendy in Sydney. Wendy says, so what do I do with the answers if I find that my customers don't like me as much as I thought? So what do we do with that? And Wendy, that's exactly where we're going next. Because the next question we need to ask is, okay, well, how do we turn, that was the question slide, sorry. How do we turn ordinary satisfied customers into these Fruit Loops, actual raving fans? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a bedtime story, a business bedtime story about a client of mine called Kelvin. So sit back and relax. Imagine that Adam and I are tucking you into bed, and then the bed bugs bite. Here we go. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, in a country not unlike Australia, Kelvin owned a bicycle shop in Sydney. And selling bicycles is not easy because there's a lot of competition from many different fronts. There are there are all the other bike shops around the place. There's the ever-increasing number of big box retailers such as Big W and Kmart, and I think for those of you in America, Walmart, of course, is the one up there. And the internet's having a larger impact all the time as well. And Kelvin's shop was doing okay, but the trends were frightening. The pressure on his prices was constant, and lately more and more of his service and repair work was suffering because customers would come into his shop asking him to fit parts that they'd bought themselves on overseas internet sites. So Kelvin asked himself, how can I possibly turn this ship around? So I started working with Kelvin, and we came to appreciate that it was imperative that he change his whole approach to doing business. He realized that he could never outcompete the big box retailers, right? You can't outcompete them on their own turf. And fighting over the crumbs with his fellow suburban bike shops was a recipe for disaster. Just at this time, though, Kelvin came across a book by a guy called Chris Zane in America. and this Chris Zane owns a bike shop, bike shop owner, a bike shop, Zane's Cyclery, I think. And he says the only difference between our competitors and us is the service that we provide. And Kelvin suddenly realized the obvious truth of this statement. There is effectively no difference between the bikes sold by Kelvin or any of his competitors, or the pumps or the bike shops. Kelvin realized that what he needed to do was turn his customers into raving fans so that they would do his marketing for him. And so he did. Kelvin developed a whole new approach to running a bike shop based on astounding service. Service levels that would leave people with their mouths agape. For example, Kelvin implemented a lifetime free flat tire repair. He really does. Doesn't matter. You get a flat tire, he'll go and fix it. He offered a no questions asked replacement guarantee for any bikes and products sold if you were dissatisfied with the product for whatever reason for up to 6 months after purchase. And Kelvin told his staff that from now on the word no was out of bounds and no request was to be rejected. Kelvin's customers were delighted and excited, and they started spreading the word, and people just started coming to check out what astounding service, the incredible service and warranty repairs and promises that he was making. People literally just started coming to check out what that was like, and the place was buzzing most days. A couple of years later, Kelvin moved his store to a new location with 3 times as much space, and Kelvin's raving fan customers followed him without hesitation and kept dragging all their friends and family to his store year after year, and as we speak, they still do. And Kelvin and his raving fans lived happily ever after, and that's the end. What do you reckon, Adam?
Nice story, really nice story. I think what's really interesting about that story too is that it doesn't take an enormous amount to keep customers happy, as long as you know the right levers to pull and you know what customers care about. And that's a really important thing. And one other thing too, people might worry about the cost of some of those deliverables, but I'm pretty sure that there were very few bikes returned after 5.5 months.
No.
So it's the trust and the relationship that's been built. It's the not having to worry factor that's far more important there. And I can tell you in businesses, it's really, if you get the right service level, then you will be so much better than the organization next to you, because you're not just selling a product. We know from the research that we've done over the years that responsiveness and reliability are the 2 most important things you can do, and they don't cost really anything. If you're just responsive to customers, you don't even have to solve their problems on the same day. If you respond quickly, you tell them what's going to happen, and you deliver on that. That alone will make you different from 9 out of 10 organizations, and that alone will bring people back, and they will pay more for that.
Yeah, I think there's a mistake or a misunderstanding that people have to say, well, for me to be able to create raving fans, I have to be perfect, and I'm never allowed to do anything wrong, and I can't make any mistakes. And that's not true at all. I think
nothing could be further from the truth. Customers know that mistakes happen. They understand that those mistakes are going to happen. It's how you deal with those mistakes. And I'll tell you something really interesting. There's a thing called the service recovery paradox. And here's something the service recovery paradox. And this will blow your mind. There's been really good research done that shows that if you have a customer and that customer has an issue and you resolve that issue quickly and effectively, that customer will be more loyal long term than the customer that never had an issue in the first place.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting you purposely make problems for your customers. But customers, as long as you do the right thing by them, and as long as you provide swift, responsive feedback and are open and upfront with them, they will be raving fans. And that doesn't cost money, and that doesn't necessarily take time.
No.
That just is a commitment to delivering responsive service. And I know that from the thousands, the tens of thousands of surveys that we've run over the last 10 years, that those 2 are top of mind. And guess where price turns up? Guess where price is on that list? The most important attribute.
I can't imagine. It must be at the top, is it?
No, I've never seen it above 4th. I've never seen it above fourth most important.
Yeah.
So if you
Never
get that
seen
other
above
stuff
fourth. That's
right,
amazing, isn't it?
customers will pay.
Yeah.
And they will pay happily.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no,
I can go on about this stuff forever, as you can. We should move on.
Yeah. So let me tell you what I think are the key steps, the key things to consider. The key things to consider in relation to the question, what do we need to do to turn our customers, our normal average customers, into raving fans, true raving fans, 9 and 10 on that scale. They will be going out of their way to be looking to help you, and these are the key steps. I think the key considerations. First, the business and therefore its staff act with integrity and authenticity. Second, the business has something truly useful to offer the customer. It's a real value. The business works to exceed the expectation that the customers always strives to. Doesn't mean that they always do, but they strive to. And the relationship that people have is about more than just money. The people in the business are passionate about the business. The business sees the customer as a partner in business. The business displays all of those consistently. I think those are the key. What do you think, Adam?
I think they're great. I think that's a terrific step, right? That integrity and authenticity is hugely important. Exceeding expectations is important, but what's really important about exceeding is you don't have to blow them out of the water. You just have to exceed them by 1%.
Yeah.
And a part of real service excellence is actually to set customer expectations. There's a real desire by people in business to set expectations too high. You know, if a customer comes to you, you say, well, I can deliver that tomorrow. And then you can't deliver it tomorrow, you deliver it on the next day, and the customer's disappointed. It's just as easy to set the customer's expectations just a little bit longer, deliver the same day, and have them happy. And expectations is about managing expectations and delivering to expectations. And that's what I said earlier. Do what you say you will do, and be responsive. Again, I can continue to add towards
I think we're going to be running out of time. So, the whole situation. I mean, it's not easy, right? It's not. The principle is simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy. For Kelvin, you know, the bike shop guy, to turn his business around, it took a lot of focus and it took a lot of discipline and energy to turn the culture in the shop around. You know, one of the things that was really tough, for example, and I was reminiscing with him about it just recently, actually, was changing the mindset of his staff, his salespeople especially. See, the salespeople, for example, had always grown up to believe that what they needed to do was to sell stuff, right? That's their job, so they've got to sell stuff. And so if they had a day where they'd sell $2,000 worth of stuff, that was a good day. And if they had a day where they sold 200, it was a bad day. But the whole point was, the insight that he got, that Kelvin got from Chris Zane, that's Chris Zane, the guy from America, that Kelvin got from Chris Zane is that the prime focus of the business must be to keep their customers. You see, the thing that Chris Zane writes about and that Kelvin suddenly understood is that it's the lifetime value of a customer. So Kelvin's focus came about making sure that once he'd won a customer, he would never lose the customer again. Short term, he'd be giving things away for free that meant he lost money in that moment. But he mentioned this. This is the kicker when you think about this, and not enough people do. Say that Kelvin sells a customer a first bike for $500. That's an entry-level bike by most measures these days. And if Kelvin made sure that customer never walks into another bike shop, he has the opportunity to sell that customer maybe another 5 to 10 bikes during his lifetime. And you can be sure that the next bike the customer buys from Kelvin won't be an entry-level bike, because nobody ever does that. And the fifth one will be several levels above the entry, and it may be a $2,000 bike or even more. But then there's all the various accessories and services. That first $500 purchase is the gateway to something like $15,000 or maybe $40,000 worth of business with increased margins. But that's just the beginning of it. Because that first purchase can lead to bikes for the customer's kids, his spouse, his friends, etc., etc. Before you know it, that first $500 becomes a gateway to maybe $200,000 worth of business. And if you think about that, when you train your staff, you're giving them an entirely different message, right? Suddenly, by all means, give stuff away. As long as the customer walks out of a raving fan, we get the opportunities to sell $200,000 worth of stuff to that customer. So there you go. I can get pretty excited about this too, Adam. But it totally changes the way you do business when you start thinking about that, and not enough people do. So and the reason not enough people do is because it's actually hard stuff, and business owners, most people want easy answers. We want, that's why we keep buying lottery tickets. We're always looking for easy, instant solutions. Taking your customer service as far as Kelvin does, well, and some of my customers do, that's hard, but it works. It pays off. Most business owners want to go, well, right, we need more customers, we need more sales, show me what to do, and what they want to do is they want to place an ad somewhere, write a check, pay a price, simply go and buy the customers. Simple formula. If I spend an extra 100,000 this month, I'll get so many extra customers. It's what kept Yellow Pages going for so long. But you want more customers, just pay for a bigger ad. Never mind that you have to discount your product and to get the new customers on board. You have to do quote after quote, and your closing rate might be down to 20%. Never mind that you have to pay your sales staff enormous to get those customers in the door. The value that's locked away in your customer base, if they're really passionate advocates, is enormous, isn't it? Aren't they?
So people don't understand the value of retention. And it's a really simple thing. It's easy to ring a bell when somebody makes a sale. It's not so easy to ring a bell when a customer doesn't come back next week.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really the secret. And that's the big thing. You need to be thinking not just about the current value of this customer, but the customer's value over the next 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 15 years, however long you're there. My mortgage broker is exactly like that, right? He knows that there's one mortgage I've got with him, but I'll be coming back for several. So yeah. I'm at least worth 3 or 4 times what he sees me worth today, plus all the value that my friends bring, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So if people put more about the real value of just lifting the service level a little bit, then they would do it easily. The ROI is enormous on this stuff.
Yeah, and it pays through in business valuation as well, right? A business with a highly engaged customer base could be 3, 4, 5 times worth as much as a business that's heavily reliant on advertising. So we've got to move on a little bit. Yeah, we got any other questions at this moment? I had a couple of other examples that I was going to talk about the Viva hotels and Zappos. People heard of Zappos? Amazing organizations. Viva is amazing too. Chip Conley, he was the founder of the Viva hotels. He's now part of Airbnb. And there's a great talk by Chip on the webinar resources page that you will get a link to. There's a fantastic TED talk by him. And there is a question though from Brent that I will answer because it's a really important point. Because Brent says that the examples we always hear about amazing customer service come from America, and instead because they have such low wages and everyone has to live from tips. And I'm taking that question. I'm going to go into that for a little bit because it's true that the big examples all seem to be coming from America more often than not, and there's a bunch of reasons for that. I think I don't know what Adam thinks about that, but not least because the US has always had a great self-service culture, but first of all, the USA has just as much crap customers as we do, right? Customer service as we do. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do customer service the same way here in Australia. It's just. I can guarantee you that the guy with the supermarkets that I mentioned before is laughing all the way to the bank, truly, where his supposed competition comes and goes. His supposed competition is just, scratching to make ends meet. And I know that because I've worked with this supermarket guy for 8 years. When he opened a store recently in a suburb of Sydney, in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, recently opened a store there about a year ago, and the locals in the neighbourhood came and brought him bunches of flowers for opening up in their neighbourhood. They did. They came and they sought him out. They sent him emails and they went up to his staff and they said, "Thank you for coming here. We've been desperate for a store like yours." And you probably think I exaggerate, but send me an email. I'll give you his name. Well, actually, the name is 7 Star Supermarket. There's no reason to be confidential about that because he wants more customers. 7 Star Supermarkets. Look them up. 7starsupermarkets.com.au. And you know what? There's no wage issue. He pays his staff better than any of the main supermarket brands in Australia. It's never about wage costs. It's about long-term thinking.
Yeah, I just want to jump in really quick on that one, because it's also about understanding what customers care about and understanding how well you're delivering what customers care about. And now we're kind of back to the survey, the feedback stuff. If you don't know what's important to customers, it's basically impossible for you to deliver what they need. So that's why the customer feedback thing is so important. Good customer service doesn't have to be more expensive. Good customer service can be quite simple to deliver, so long as you know what good customer service looks like. And that is the thing that most organizations don't really understand, and that's why the feedback side of it is so important.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you from experience, responsiveness and reliability are always right near the top. But how responsive and how reliable are you? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. And that's the question that the customer, they will say, "Well, yeah, you're fine," but that doesn't cut it.
Yeah,
as an answer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Cool. We keep moving because we have... yeah. So the big lessons, the big insights, the holy grail of business is having your customers wanting to buy your stuff in great numbers for the price that you want to charge. Customers who behave like that are passionate advocates or raving fans. The first step in creating raving fans is to know with a high degree of accuracy what your customers actually think about you on an ongoing basis. A very effective way to get to know that is to implement a surveying system called a Net Promoter Score, and because it gives you a constant insight in your customer engagement expressed as single numbers. Adam, as we said, has a very simple app available to implement that system in your business. More about that later. Once you know how your customers feel about you, you can set about turning them into raving fans. It might cost money in the short term, but it opens up enormous value for your business over the long term.
And I'd argue it doesn't necessarily have to cost money in the short term.
No, okay. I don't think so either, actually, but still. Turning your customers into raving fans it requires long-term thinking over that. That's the trick. Yeah. And once your customers are raving fans, they will do your customer acquisition for you for free, and your margins will experience much less pressure. Anything else you want to add to that recap, Adam?
No, that's good. That's
cool.
Good.
So what's come up for you? Those were the. Sorry, I should have gone through those slides. Sorry. There we go. Any other questions? We've got a couple of other questions. What about bonuses what about bonuses to your salespeople? That's a really big topic, and it's actually, I think, off topic for this webinar, Jean-Pierre. I hope you don't mind. We're going to let that go, but I'm very happy to talk about that with you over on email or Adam or either of us or both of us. I have very, very, very strong opinions about that, which is rare. I never have any opinions, but I do about this topic. Dominic, can you recommend any apps for keeping track of customers' birthdays, anniversaries, or yearly maintenance? Again, I think it's slightly off topic, and it's the CRM topic is massive. Please feel free to email about that. I can't swear that I've got all the right answers, but I've got some, I suppose.
I have to say, Dominic, on your question there, the answer is there's lots of applications that will do it, and any one of them will do it, but you have to do it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
You have to execute on that. There's lots of, you can do what you're asking there on a stack of 3x5 cardboard index cards. You don't need software to do that stuff.
Yeah.
but you have to maintain it, and that's typically the hardest part. Sorry, it's completely off topic.
Yeah, and it's customers. It's got the word customers in, but it is a tricky one, and I don't actually think it's the most important thing to generate raving fans. But anyway, so feel free to talk to us about that offline. Remember we asked you at the beginning to focus on your most pressing issue. Sorry, we're moving on a little bit. Your most pressing issue, and this whole topic of customer engagement is just another thing on top of all the other things that you have to try and juggle and manage already, right? All those hundreds of business development priorities, just too much to focus on. So I ask you to focus and write down your most pressing issue, the biggest challenge that you have right now. Have another look at it. Is that still right, or has something else come up for you by now? So I mentioned that we're going to give you some information about how you can take a couple of really effective next steps with all the stuff we talked about, and to help you move out of feeling overwhelmed and knowing where to focus next. So Adam and I are going to give you some really cool stuff to help you move forward. First from me, everyone, for free, everyone's going to get a copy of my first book in ebook or audio book form, or if you already have it, like some of you have here, you'll get a copy of my third book when it comes out in a month. Also for free from Adam, you're going to get a link, and it's on your worksheet already, but it will also come out in an email to you. You're going to link to download a whole bunch of free tools. You want to tell us a bit more about those tools?
Yeah, so there's a stack of tools there. There's I think 4 downloads in that pack. They're really just information about what Net Promoter Score is, what the best way to write your surveys. It's really just information on how best to use survey information. So
yep.
All good educational, all applicable. You can go on and use that stuff.
It is. It's a great, cool download and free. Then there's two non-free things. One is a one-on-one coaching session with me to work on your most pressing issue and find ways forward and steps forward out of your most pressing issue. All you have to do to get that is to make a $100 donation to my favorite charity here, the Wayside Chapel in Sydney. It's a local church and refuge center. So it's a 75-minute session, face-to-face or via Skype. And then finally, the last thing is also from Adam.
Yeah, so the tool that we talked about, the $99 US tool. So it's a very inexpensive tool.
It's the Run Our Survey tool.
The Run Our Survey tool, and that will be in the download pack. But anybody on the webinar here, you click through on the link, and there's a 33% discount for the next couple of days on that one. So just download that. I think it comes to 33% comes out of $66 US. Yeah,
and
once off, no more to pay.
I really urge you to do it, because it just answers all your questions about customer survey stuff in small business. So everybody gets a free book, a whole bunch of free tools from Adam. You can have a one-on-one coaching session with me for a $100 donation to the Wayside Chapel, and you get that Adam's Run Out Survey system for only $66. And that's the best deal you've had all year to take a big step forward in developing your business. And so here, now we're at action. What are we going to do next? It's time for action. Ain't nothing going to change if you don't take no action. First, I'm going to ask you to reflect on 2 questions. Do you know who the top 20% of your customers are? Who are the top 20% of your customers, and what are they worth to you over the next 5 to 10 years? And have you ever sought meaningful feedback from your top customers on how they feel about their relationship with your business? Think about that. And then this is what I want you to do. First of all, you need to set aside time for this in the coming weeks. If you don't set aside time for this, to do something with what you've learned here today and the information that we've given you today in the next few days, then coming on this webinar has simply been a waste of your time. The only thing that makes any difference is what actions you take. So go to the resources page, which you've had the link, but you'll get it again. Take the time, read the articles and the book summary. Watch that video by Chip Conley. You will get a really cool insight insight on how to build an amazing business. And then on your worksheet is a scale from 0 to 10. And this, you see it on the screen as well, and it's your, we're going to call this your Mastery of Customer Engagement scale, and 10 on the scale is that you engage with your customers better than anyone else, and your customers are all 100% raving lunatic fans. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to brainstorm a list of 25, not right now, but simple actions you could take tomorrow that will move you up that scale. I've given you a few sample actions. These for that list of 25. It's just to give you some idea of what the kind of actions that we're talking about. Really practical, simple actions. And then when you've brainstormed with yourself all 25 of them, pick one. Pick one, lock it into your diary, and make sure you do it. Commit it in, and do it next week. That's it, that's us. Lastly, so this is the offers again. I'd love you to take up the offers, all of them. They're truly the best offers you'll get all year to take a bunch of steps forward to building a fun business that sustains you for years to come. And the Wayside Chapel will love you too. Any other questions from anyone at this moment? No, that's great. We're over time. Sorry, we ran over time. Only a few minutes over time, let's hope. The recording and you'll get everybody will get an email with the recording and the link to the resources page and the offer and everything. So that'll come to you tomorrow at some point. Lastly, if you take nothing else away from this webinar, remind yourself of those 2 customers. Who are your top questions? Who are your top customers? What are they worth to your business over their lifetime? And what do they really think about your business? If you keep focusing on those 2 questions constantly, your life will change, I promise you. Any last comments from you, Adam?
No, I think that's good. I think it's all good.
That's great.
Do something.
Go and do something. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time today. Any questions, of course, that's the key question. Who are your top customers? What are they worth to your business over their lifetime, and what do they really think about your business? And that's us. And any other questions, roland@newperspectives.com, and there you, and that's the link. Thank you very much. Recording goes off. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.